Hello, everyone. We are here at the Disruption Network Club for the second panel of the conference Shadows of Illiberalism. And we will speak about art activism and the rise of illiberalism in Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. So I'm very happy to welcome all the speakers here. I will start by introducing the moderator, Tonia Mastrobuoni, and then she will introduce the rest of the speakers. So just to give some more words about Tonia. Tonia Mastrobuoni is a German-Italian journalist, born in Brussels and grew up in Rome. She is the correspondent for Germany and Eastern for La Repubblica and previously La Stampa. From 2001 to 2011, she was the economic and financial reporter for Reuters. She has published many books, including a political biography of Angela Merkel and the erosion on how sovereignties are sweeping away democracy in Europe. She is publishing in autumn a new book about the extreme right in Germany. The title is The Plug. So now I'm very happy to welcome all of you on stage and also welcome Anna, Slavo, and Peter. And Tonia, you will introduce them more in depth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. I'm really honored and happy to be here, to be invited as a moderator at this panel, because I have been following I'm a big fan of Tatiana Bazzichelli. I think she's one of the greatest organizers of interesting things in Berlin. She always has been, and we have worked a lot together. I have done a lot of very, very good pieces and interviews thanks to her. So, so I'm honored to be on the stage this time and not as a spectator. And I will introduce you the first panelist. We have a real parterre de roi here to speak about Eastern Europe, but I mean, in the meantime, every election in Europe is a sort of, you go between horror and relief because of the rising of the extreme right. It's not only a Eastern European phenomenon, as we know as Italian, because we have a far-right prime minister, Giorgia Meloni. But I think the Eastern European sovereignism, as we call them, are a little bit special. So it's very important to have here three honored guests that can go into deep of these countries of Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. And I will start by Hungary, because Hungary has been a blueprint for authoritarian regimes. Viktor Orban is taken as a model by Donald Trump, by many other right-wing leaders. And so I'm really happy to introduce you Péter Adamik. He was born in Budapest, in the capital of Hungary, of course. But he moved 6 years ago to Berlin after studying Scandinavian literature in Freiburg, if I'm not wrong. And since then, he's project manager at the Foundation of Remembrance, Responsibility and Future, the so-called EVZ Stiftung. It is a foundation that focuses much on supporting Holocaust survivors and their memories, on supporting civil societies and NGOs. And NGOs is a very important word when it comes to Hungary, because Hungary, on Putin's example and model, has been persecuting NGOs in these years. So it's a very important work he's doing. Also through the Freie Ungarische Botschaft, FUB, the Free Hungarian Embassy here in Berlin. Now, I mean, he's doing activism through art, through also political activity, and I think the FUB is preparing now to a very important event, which is the Hungarian Pride in Budapest. As you know, the Pride was banned in March and April through a constitutional vote. So it is written in the Hungarian constitution now that people can't march on the street, they can't go peacefully on the street to signal their solidarity for LGBTQI+ community. And this time there was no outcry in Europe. And this I found scandalous. I wrote it also. Ursula von der Leyen didn't say one word about this. In 2021, when there was a very similar law, there was a big outcry in Europe when there was a law that was prohibiting practically to speak about LGBTQI themes in the television or in school, with the excuse of protecting children from, pedophilia, right? So in Hungary, there's always this association, being gay, being pedophile, which is horrible, it is medieval, and it is, of course, absolutely terrifying. So I would invite Péter now to explain to us in detail what is the Free Hungarian Embassy doing in Berlin? How is it helping also the civil society in Hungary to resist to Viktor Orban? And also, as it is the topic of this, of course, conference, the term illiberal was invented exactly by Viktor Orban, if I'm not wrong, in 2014, right? So, yes, but it has become a symbol. He says proudly, I'm an illiberal, no? We are in a liberal democracy. So, Péter, the floor is to you.
Thank you very much, Tonia, and thanks for the invite. I'm glad to be here on behalf, first of all, of my political activism, Freie Ungarische Botschaft. So we've been an organization since 2017, and we've got maybe something like 10 to 15 active members and way more pacifists that we can activize once there is something like Viktor Orban coming for a visit to Berlin, and then we are organizing the Hungarians, and we've got experience in organizing demonstrations, so people when they get an idea how to stand up for civil society in Hungary and the democratic state, then they don't have to start from zero because we have the experience. So we are a platform for Hungarian migrants in Berlin. We support civil society in Hungary, those who have no different ways of financing anymore, and and there are more than 10,000 Hungarians living in Berlin, just so you can get an idea. And often when I'm in a speaking position, I would like to know to who am I speaking and how much they know about my topics. So like, hands up, who would claim that you're quite up to date about Hungary and you know what's happening there? Okay, the smaller half. Very good, very good. Okay, I'm happy to hear that. So basically, as Tonia mentioned, there is a huge problem. Basically, there is this banned Pride, that would be the 30th anniversary Pride March in Budapest. This city is aspiring European liberal values, and our government that has been in power for 15 years now in a row, they forbid it. So what are we doing about this? We are having a mobilization project. We are informing our networks and society in Berlin what to expect if you go there. We kind of invite everyone to join, because although it's prohibited, there will be a Pride March in Budapest. The organizers made it clear. Right now it's a very dynamic situation. Day by day it's changing. Legal experts organized already a small march in the center of Budapest. So they made a blueprint and the police approved it. That was like 2 weeks ago. So now they are saying we are going to do the same event. We're not going to call it Pride, but it's going to be called the same thing like this little blueprint march. So how could you forbid it? Because the police normally, based on the amended constitutional change, forbid the Pride March as such. So there is a huge legal big soup of goulash where no one knows what will happen. But one thing is sure, there will be a Pride March. So also the invite goes to all of you. If you still have no plans on the last weekend of June, 28th of June, there will be a Pride March in Budapest. Now, the Constitution Amendment also gave the Hungarian police the authority to use face recognition software, so as a new tool in order to efficiently send the envelopes to those who've been spotted there. So basically no one's going to prison. So if you go to Budapest, if you attend, the worst that can happen to you is like the legal category of a parking fine. If you parked your car somewhere in the wrong place, and there can be a fine between 15 and 500 euros. So it's like no one knows what will happen, but the legal experts say that the bigger the crowd, the smaller the chance that this tool will work efficiently. So we need a big fat crowd supporting the Hungarian LGBTI community and the civil society that is under an immense pressure. So basically, for the Pride, we are organizing also solidarity buses from Berlin. That's our little contribution that we can support, that we can give. So if any of you are interested or need more information, just speak to me after this event. And yeah, and let's hope to make a big crowd there. So. Yeah, and because art and political activism is also a topic here today, I wanted to bring you an example. Like word is spreading that also in order to trick that face recognition tool, makeup artists could play a big role. In such crowds, wearing a mask or covering your face would be an illegal act, but perhaps makeup artists can do some wonder with your face that when the software is getting your picture and tries to match it with your ID card photo that might be I don't know how many years old, they cannot really prove it's you. So this could be like an interesting aspect for those of you who are interested in the connects of art and politics. Then, so that's like the one and only project we are focusing at, because we are doing this in our free time. It's activism. It's on a voluntary base. And I wanted to highlight a second project that we had last year and before last year. That was a series of exhibition about Hungarian propaganda of the last 15 years. So basically, we printed and copied and with some graphic designer rebuilt the well-known billboards from the streets of the Hungarian government, so-called informational campaigns, that has been a huge weapon in the autocratic toolkit of the Orbán government since at the earliest the 2014-15. So we printed and asked a lot of media houses in Hungary, like, please, could you share with us the pictures that you took of those billboards? Because there have been like 12, 13 campaigns with each its own topic of hate and disinformation. We are paying about taxpayers' money invested in those information campaigns. So usually it's like there is a topic like, let's say, the migration crisis. So basically the title of our exhibition was Illiberal Realities If You Come to Hungary, ... And this If You Come to Hungary was the text of one of those billboards in Hungarian language that was addressing the Syrian refugees that were passing through Hungary. And it was saying, if you come to Hungary, you have to respect our laws, or you have to respect our women, or whatsoever. So like completely clear that Syrian person wouldn't understand this message painted on a street in Hungarian. So all this is about spreading hate to the voters inside Hungary. So we collected all these billboards and informational campaigns and exhibited it twice in Berlin. So that was something when like, okay, it's also art. We created an exhibition. We raised the topic that no one ever did before us. We are kind of relatively sure, and impact in political activism is often hard to measure, but it was a great success. And what I am personally very, very glad about is that the same topic popped up now, a year later, where an independent Hungarian media place called Partizan created an entire documentary movie called 10 Years of Hate that is dedicated to this topic. So it's like, I don't want to claim that it was because of us and our exhibition, but you never know. Like we were the first one thematizing this, and now I invite you. I brought with myself a trailer of this movie. It's a 3 minutes long video. So I wanted to show this to you, 10 Years of Hate. And if you are more interested, it's very hard stuff, basically, when you watch. It's a 1.5 hour long documentary, and everything is in there. But if you want to understand the essence of the Orbán system, which is hate, division, and spreading fear in society in order to divert attention from the real problems, then this is your movie. Please.
Mi a keresztény kultúrából nőttünk ki, különbséget teszünk az ember és a tettei között. Mi sohasem gyűlöltünk, és nem is fogunk gyűlölni senkit. Épp ellenkezőleg, mi továbbra is hiszünk a szeretet és az összefogás erejében.
2015 Orbán Viktor radikalizálódásában azért mégiscsak egy fontos időpont.
A mi közösségünk nem akar bevándorlókat látni Magyarországon.
Nagyon sok szempontból korszakhatár 2015 és a menekültügy is.
Hogyha most nem leszünk elég férfiasak és felelősségteljesek, akkor 10 év múlva nem fogunk ráismerni erre az országra.
Az, ami sajátos az Orbánban, az nem a menekültellenességnek a tartalma, hanem az a fajta kitartás és magabiztosság és ambíció, hogy mindent erre a témára tesz fel, mindent ennek a témának rendel alá, és aztán ez alá bepakolhatja azt is, hogyha egy politikai pártra támad, egy civil szervezetre támad, európai politikusra támad rá, tehát ez alá berendezhető tulajdonképpen a teljes filozófiája és gyakorlata a NER-nek.
Emberjogi harcosok falkái éreznek leküzdhetetlen vágyat, hogy kioktassanak és megvádoljanak bennünket. Állítólag kirekesztők és ellenségesek vagyunk.
Egy autoritár rendszer azért alapvetően nem tud nem kirekesztő lenni, nem tud nem olyan lenni, amely valamilyen ellenségkép felmutatásával indokolja meg a saját belső használatú, elnyomó intézkedéseit.
A migránsoknak meg kell érteniük, hogy itt úgysem jöhetnek át. Ha kell, megkeresik, megtalálják, elfogják, és határozottan ki is tessékelik őket Magyarországról. 1-től 1-ig. Nincs kivétel.
Abban a helyzetben ennek az egész magyar társadalom áldozata volt. Az is, aki befogadóan nyitottan állt azokhoz az emberekhez, akik keresztezték ezt az országot, és azok is, akik viszont az ő szempontjukból féltették ezt az országot, és féltették a közösségüket.
Lehetett volna ezt teljesen másképp csinálni. Lehetett volna úgy is másképp csinálni, hogy az emberek ne féljenek, hanem inkább megnyugodjanak. Nem lehet úgy a világot nézni, hogy mindig kiveszünk belőle a humánumot, vagy a morális kérdéseket, mert ha mindent ebben a hoz-is-visz dikotómiában nézzük, akkor idő után elfogyunk benne.
Thank you very much. How much time I got left? 10 minutes. Very well. Good. So this was 10 years of hate. Please watch it. It's on YouTube. It's for free. It's very intense, though. The next thing I wanted to say, you asked me about a bit of definition of illiberalism. It's not Orban who founded this term. This was, I Googled it, you can ask ChatGPT. This term was like in political science a known term since the early 90s, late 80s, I think, but like used for democracies where there are elections, but lots of other rights are not existent, or there is no media pluralism. Like also in the previous panel, there was a discussion about democracy definition, and what I used to say always when we learn at school about the Athens democracy, no one would say it's not a democracy, right? That's what we grew up in school. But women didn't have voting rights. That wouldn't be today a democracy, I guess. Back then, it was. Without female votes. So it's like the problem starts with that the democracy definition is also, I think, I might claim it doesn't exist, because it's like constantly changing, and it's very easy to abuse it. So the Orban way of the self-declaration that we are an illiberal system that he declared in 2014, well, he had to call his way of system something, because he still wanted to stay in the EU. Hungary wouldn't be allowed to enter the EU today if we were outside of it. And he had to legitimate the system, but basically this whole illiberalism is just the packaging. It's the branding. It's the packaging for the rotten system of kleptocrats that are using all the European Union funds to enrich their circles. And I mean, we are on a panel discussion, but allow me to use the words of my father. He would call the illiberalism and the Orban system, it's a plate of poo with muffins. And they want you to talk about the muffins. However, there's a huge giant poo in the middle of your plate. So that's what they've been doing with us for 15 years. There are little muffins, problems created. However, we've got a big smelly system right in front of us, a big elephant in the room. And this is outrageous, first of all, and second of all, this is possible because they have a legal superpower in the parliament, and they have a communicational superpower. The legal superpower, its history is, it started actually with fair and free elections. It was the big economical crisis in Europe. The previous socialist government went through a huge credibility crisis. People were fed up, people wanted change. They got a super majority, a constitutional majority in the parliament, but Orban already lost an election 8 years before that, and he couldn't risk to lose another one. So he started to build up his empire that actually 4 years after his first term was losing popularity, losing a lot of popularity. And that's what they say in the movie. 2015 was the year where then statistics say that his popularity again got back to the level of when he was the fresh change. Why? Because of the so-called migration crisis and how they started to realize that actually they don't need topics to win an election. The Fidesz party didn't have a program. There was no election program. You can look at other parties' programs. What there was fear. Fear from Muslim terrorism. It was the exact same time that there were the Bataclan and all other horrible Muslimist extremist attacks across Europe, and they built up step by step the narrative that migrant is equal terrorist. they're gonna rape our women, it's gonna become a caliphate, and all these things that we would call in civilized culture as conspiracy theory. This was official government communication in Hungary. So you can imagine what's in the mind of some people in Hungary. They've been exposed to this for 15 years now. So basically, the game is getting more dangerous because also I think the year 2016 is crucial because Brexit happened. And since Brexit, no country wants to leave the EU. They say it sucks, it didn't work, it's not a win-win, it's a lose-lose situation. So the problem is that the right extreme and the fascist parties realized that they are also European and they can team up with other fascists of other European countries, and then they are stronger. So now they don't want to leave the EU, they want to change it from the inside. So that is our big problem, and now we are approaching our today's situation where they speak about the Rechtsruck, like a right shift in Europe, and the leading character is Viktor Orbán. But we notice some crackling in the system, and maybe we can talk about that later, because I won't have time for that, but after we will have time for more questions and going a bit deeper. But today it's an extremely dynamic and somehow fearful. There is a lot of fear in the air, but we are at a turning point. There is a bit less than 1 year left before there are parliamentary elections again in Hungary. And for the last 15 years, we've got a chance. There is for the first time a strong opposition party that is, at the moment, if there were elections in Hungary tomorrow, they would win. If there were free and fair elections. Because the question is not the when, is the if, unfortunately, because there are so many scenarios what could still happen, and one of them is that there won't be any election. Hungary has been under emergency governance since 2015, since the migration crisis. So anyway, we don't need the parliament. It's a beautiful building, but there is a party with absolute majority sitting inside. The opposition, it's nice that they are there, but they could also go home and use their time somehow differently. But the problem is that it's also in the media and in the law giving since 2015 migration crisis, then COVID crisis, then war in Ukraine, which has a common border with Hungary. So the population has been constantly kept in a fear and in a state of emergency, and they are prolonging it every 180 days, I think. So right now, the main focus of the Hungarian government is Ukraine and its future in the EU. That's the new topic that they trying to split people and own the narrative with. But and that's a little positive finish line. There are now many new actors and a lot of things that happen at the same time that causes that people are not really listening to Fidesz, and the government is struggling to keep the power of the narrative because people are losing patience. Maybe until here, and then later we can continue.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. I think you gave me like a sort of flashback, because in 2022 I was in the elections, and that's apropos partisan and apropos billboards. When you were in 2022 in Hungary, in Budapest for the election, was really depressing, because the billboards all over the place were only about Fidesz and Orbán. He had a quasi monopoly of the billboards, and of course all the media since many years, all the media are in hands of the public media are in hands of Orbán and of Fidesz, and the private media are taken by his closest friends, by a sort of oligarchy circle, the kleptocrats that he has gathered around him. So it was really incredible, and I went to the opposition party, electoral party, at the night of the election. It was tragic because 6 parties from right to left had made a coalition to beat Orban, and it wasn't possible. They had like 40%, he had 60%, because there was no opposition, there was no space for the opposition, they could not do anything on TV, they were never appearing in TV, and the only TV that was at that electoral night that was still free was Partizan TV. And it was like they were invited there, the opposition. But it was really, this can't be called European Union. I mean, and European Union can't turn its back to this incredible situation. At the first Trump mandate, a very good book came out of Levitt and Ziblatt. Levitt is also the professor who is leading now the revolt in Harvard. And this book was called How Democracies Die. I can really recommend it to you. It speaks about Trumpism, but it quotes 2 countries in Europe where it says, you don't need Panzer in the street. You don't need a coup to have an authoritarian regime. It can go silently, slowly or quickly. And the other country, the only 2 countries that this book mentioned were Hungary and Poland. And so we're coming to Anna, because Anna Krenz is an artist, an architect, an author, and an activist, not necessarily in this order. And she studied in Poznan and London and founded Sinus 3 that focuses on ecology and on the design of public space. She works a lot with combining ecology and architecture. She has been editor-in-chief of the Vox Design and Redesign magazine. And in 2015, which is a very important date for Poland, when the PiS, the Right and Justice Party, the ultra-Catholic and right-wing party, that destroyed the rule of law in the years between 15 and 23, and attacked the rights of women and of LGBTQI people. Well, in this very crucial year, PiS won the election, and some months into 2016, Anna founded in Berlin I hope I say it right, Dziewuchy group, exactly. It's a feminist group that fights for abortion and women's rights. And as I told you, we will speak about the election. I was in Poland recently for the election. We will speak about the anger of the feminists in this moment in Poland. But Anna is also the initiator of the International Council of Polish Women, which is a very, very interesting organization that brings together Polish women that are living, I think, in 17 different countries, 13. And so I think Anna can speak to us a lot about how art and political activism can be combined in a very effective way. And then I hope we can speak about Poland. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's true, the drama of the Polish politics. Just recently we had this election. I will talk about it later because I want to show you some pictures and tell you a story about Polish activism and art in Berlin, and a little bit about empowerment, because we will not just cry about Polish politics. Yeah, so yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Where? There. No. Oh, no, no, no. Shit. No. Fuck, like this? Yeah. So, the thing is, I think I must have been 13 years old when the wall came down, when the Solidarność movement in Poland fought for freedom, when the Eastern Bloc fell apart. And suddenly Poland was one of those free countries, like many of us. And I was really in primary school when then in this turmoil, political turmoil, I found out that there's so much talk about abortion in the media. Everybody was talking about it. We were young, like my friends and me, but we noticed it. And it was like, what on earth is happening? And I asked my mom, why? And she said, well, it's just always the same when things happen in politics. When there's a huge change, they always talk about abortion. They always play with women's bodies and women's rights. It's just so typical. And at the same time, I think we were, 13, 14, still in primary school. And I remember that we were talking for hours after school with a young, young priest who was our religion teacher. We still had religion as a lesson at school. Maybe they still have it. And we were discussing it with this beautiful man, young priest, I think was learning how to become a priest. And we were talking to him and why it should not be, abortion should be legal and this and this and that. And we spent really hours on this. 13 years old, yeah. And I must say, after finishing primary school, I saw this guy, this priest again on the street. He was in a jeans trousers, jeans jacket with a woman and a child and a mustache. That was the time he had a mustache. And then I thought, wow, okay, so things... I don't know if it was us and our talks with him. I don't know, I hope not, I don't know. But then I saw, and I thought about it, okay, so he quit the system of religious, whatever these people do in church. So of course, when 2015 came and the Peace Party came to power again because they were ruling before. And of course, very quickly, our back then Prime Minister, Beata Szydło, she mentioned she should limit the law for the abortion law. Everybody got really angry. The whole year 2016, people in Poland, not only women, but obviously women the most, men too, everybody got really angry because what on earth is that? They did dismantle democracy tools in Poland. That's true, but women's rights, again, it was so boring, and again, abortion. But they wanted to do it. And then I remember, actually, it was in March, April, we started to make demonstrations and different actions and art actions. Today, of course, you can do it. Living in Berlin, it's a piece of cake because we all communicate through stupid Facebook. I know, with this hashtag feminist wave, we do it online. So me sitting in Berlin, of course, I could take part in planning actions in Poland and opposite. So we did that, and the whole year of protests and actions, it culminated. The culmination was actually on the 3rd of October, 2016. We planned a real women's strike, like real strike, inspired by women's strike in Iceland in 1975. And in Poland, it was Monday. So many, hundreds of thousands of women didn't go to work. It was true a strike. So everybody went on the streets. And we in Berlin, of course, we said, okay, sure, we'll do a solidarity demonstration, of course, because we felt the same anger. And it was in Warschauer Straße, Warschauer Brücke, that some friends of mine and we did. We said, okay, let's do black protest. Everybody should come dressed in black. And in the beginning, we wanted to do it on the street, but when we saw that many people wanted to come, I thought, okay, let's do it somewhere else on this bridge. I live next to it, not far from it, and I wanted to have a stage, three-dimensional protest, not just a street protest with talking heads, but these stairs are so fantastic. It's just like a three-dimensional structure so that people who stand there, they can be part of this view. The audience is part of it. Not a coulisse, but we were all kind of the thing with the stage. So many people came, like in Berlin. It was, I must say, kind of successful in terms of how many people came, and people still remembered everybody was angry. And in this moment, the black protest in Berlin, we asked Berlin for solidarity. We asked the world for solidarity because of the stupid, shitty situation of Polish women in Poland. And for us, Polish migrants here, Polish feminists, okay, I think we are kind of a speaker, not a speaker, but not a microphone. I don't know, but we channel the energy, we channel the anger that we receive from Poland, and we kind of work with it in Berlin to tell you, all of you or different people, how things are in Poland, and also send a sign of solidarity back to people in Poland, say, you're not alone. So this was black protest. And of course, being Polish, being a person in Berlin, of course we fight for women's rights in Germany because, well, the abortion law is also not perfect. We all know that it's actually, abortion in Germany is a crime unless you do this, this and that. Okay, so obviously this is something that any of us living here can relate to. It was a different demonstration, but it was about paragraph 219, the one which forbade doctors to tell that they offer abortion process. And for this paragraph, a few years later, Berlin women, we won in Germany. This one was cancelled, the paragraph. And you can see here, it's a little performance I thought maybe we can do because I got so bored with demonstrations, with talking heads, and then I thought, okay, let's do something different, just dress some little things and do some simple actions, because obviously you see the drawings on the left. I could not write a script before because nobody would ever read it. That's why I draw like a storyboard for protests, for performances, and I just take some people from the street and say, come, take part, dress this, and I show the drawing, and people say, okay, I can do it, just turn around, do whatever. That makes the thing more simple. Otherwise, nobody would never ever read anything I'm not reading before the protest. So that's why, and then I also wanted to put the Polish subject in Berlin, to root Polish feminist subject in Berlin, and opposite. I think our cooperation, oh shit, okay, let's run. Okay, and then, many different protests where I do the same strategy, making little drawings so people can understand what I want them to do. And they usually do it, surprisingly. 2017, I think it was quite an interesting year because after the women's strike in Poland, the idea of a strike went around the world. It went to South Korea, to South America, to different countries, to America as well. They had the Women's March. And this idea of striking became active again in 2017 on the 8th of March. I don't know, but there was a huge network of, 50 countries that we planned to have a real strike or Women's Day strike. And in Berlin, it was a demonstration where we had a tiny success, but I'll tell you why it was a success. Back then in Berlin, there were like 2 huge marches, 2 demonstrations. One was made by Frauenkampftag, classic official political German demonstration. And there was another one made by migrants called Internationalist Feminist Alliance. And it's more migrants, and they usually walk in 2 different directions. But I had this vision, let's go global, let's show the world and ourselves that we can stand together, even if we are different. But let's stand together. So we managed to ask both marches to come to Oranienplatz. At the same time, I had this vision, okay, we stand here and these 2 marches come from both sides and then we have so much power. It worked. It was a hard work to organize it, but it worked. Okay, it was raining, but in the end they came. Both marches came to see us. And here we are standing together with feminists from Ireland, because that was a time when they were fighting to repeal the 8. We combine our fights internationally, because otherwise it's... So a few years later, I was naive to think again, to have these both marches coming again on the 8th of March. It didn't work. And there was a 3rd initiative in Germany established called Frauenstreik. The same people, we just thought, let's do something new, all right, because the rest was kind of boring. And then we didn't have any idea what to do because, for example, in Berlin, what should we do? Should we go to this march, or how should we strike? It was a day off. It was a gift from Berliner Senat. So before the organization meeting, I was already in my clothes. I wanted to go to this meeting, but then I thought, I have an idea. And I quickly painted some paintings, because I thought, if I come to the meeting with a picture, then maybe they will just simply accept it quicker and see what I mean. I didn't have to speak. And I had this idea called Ich streike, that's a hashtag. So instead of going to this march or this march, making march hopping, anybody can do it. Anybody can take a chair, dress black, and have a note on the back. And that was action number 1, decentralized strike. Because in Germany you cannot really strike as a woman because it has to go through Verdi, and it's about kind of working rights. But this is a symbolic action, and you can do it anywhere. Just make a sign in the city. Second action for the same event, same date, was Global Scream, which is an action 1 minute of screaming. Believe me, it's not easy. 1 minute is long, it's 60 seconds, but after screaming for 1 minute, you have so much oxygen through this breathing and shouting. So it's it's an empowerment action. And I propose it too, because again, these 2 marches didn't want to come to the same place. So I said, okay, if we do the same thing at the same time in different places, at least we'll have a feeling of unification. So I went to both marches and said, can you do it at 5 o'clock wherever you are? Yeah, we can scream for a minute. Second march, yeah, we can scream for a minute. And so it was a kind of an action how to unify divided Berlin feminist circles, which are so divided. It's a tradition for Berlin, everybody's divided. But this, at least for a minute, we did the same thing at different places. And and it is also drawings made very quickly. And I still do Global Scream. The German name of this action, Aufschrei Global, it's an homage to a German hashtag from, I think, 2015-17, hashtag Aufschrei, which was kind of a pre-Me Too thing, pre-Me Too, but it was in German, so it was never popular, but it was popularized in Germany by Anne Wieczorek, so I always give my homage. And screaming, it's an homage to Gina Birch. It's an artist. She did a 3-minute scream on the installation. But here you see, for example, the left photos last year, we were screaming in intention for Georgia, but you can scream for anything you want. And that's what makes it universal, because everybody can scream more or less, and we scream, each of us has their own reasons, no? It could be, whatever you want. So I still do it, this year did it as well, 1 minute of screaming. And as you can see, walking on demonstrations, I use transparents made of lace, like curtains. I paint the lower part red just to symbolize the Polish flag, it's kind of, and I do writing in Polish or German. But especially Polish, I think Polish language is so absent in the streets of Berlin. That's why I like when people say Dziewuchy. Well, yeah, break the tongue. Why not? Just to have a different action. And the reason why I'm using the lace, as an architect maybe as well, I like this idea of, if you have a classical home and there's like a lace curtain hanging in the window, it's a passive thing. It's hanging. But if I carry it on the street, it's like a carrying structure, not passive, it's active, it's carrying a message. So Botschaft der Polinnen, it's called, this project. Botschaft is double meaning in German, like on one hand embassy, which was closed for Polish people for 8 years in Berlin, but also a message. And I like the carrying quality of this material, which is normally classically hanging. And also, normally a lace, I know it's feminine, and when we talk about abortion laws, it's very close to the body. Like lace sometimes, we wear lace next to our bodies, but also lace can cover us, our bodies, or our homes when we have a lace curtain. But on the other hand, you can see the world different through a lace curtain. Also in the street, when you see buildings like brutalist beton buildings, it changes the perspective, and that's what it is about. That's what art is about, to change the perspective. Why not? But the funny part is that this lace structure, which I'm still using, I was a guest, an artist by Tatiana many years ago in 2008. She organized an exhibition called Hack Fem East downstairs, and this installation here with the red lights, back then I had a project where I was selling Polish women as wives. Of course, it was meant ironic. Today I would never do it because I would be cancelled immediately. Even it was kind of ironic or sarcastic. Today no, but meant no. But this structure was just standing some years ago here. That's why it's cool to be here. But I use the same structure and I use the same material to go and to talk about different things, and like demonstrations and performances like this one. It was for Safe Abortion Day 2020. I wanted to have lace and I wanted to have big pictures and say, let's do it in front of a Brandenburger Tor. And we did with a global scream action together with activists from Argentina, again, always. I wanted powerful experiences that people take part in it. The people at the back, some of our, activists, but some of are just people coming who are happy to take part. And you see, we're dancing, you see the lace box, which opened, and we did some things, and dancing, and pictures. And then, the year 2020, we were cooperating, actually, with Freie Botschaft as well, many times. Yeah, also, and but this year, October 2020, it was so horrible, because if you think about women's rights, you think, okay, there's probably a ministry or a president or a party that likes to limit it. But in Poland and Hungary probably as well, peace took over constitutional tribunal. And for many, it was kind of boring. But in the end, it was the chairwoman of the constitutional tribunal who decided, with her fake people there, but she decided that abortion due to fetal damages is not constitutional, so they banned it. And just make a note that 90% of all official abortions in Poland, probably other countries as well, is because of this fetus is very ill and it will not survive. So, and she canceled this one. So basically abortion, the last 10% of legal abortions, it's nothing. So that's why we got this energy from Poland again, and we all got angry. And I wanted to make 1 week of demonstrations, but in the end it was like 8-10 weeks. Okay, I'm finishing. It was 8-10 weeks of demonstrations. And the thing is, back then, it was in the middle of COVID pandemic. The theaters were closed. Everything was closed. But the only thing you could do in Germany was to demonstrate. This was allowed. So, of course, there you go. We organized this festival, Bloody Weeks. It's like a Berlin Art Week, that was Berlin Bloody Week, and we offered many different forms of resistance, from demonstrations to technoparade, to strike, to writing letters, to anything. Anybody could take part because we had a whole palette of different forms. There was so many. We were so, dancing things. And also, just make a note, the chairwoman of the Constitutional Tribunal back then was Julia Przyłębska, the wife of the Polish ambassador to Berlin at the time. So, of course, we wrote letters to her. Julia, you have a choice not to sign this treaty. But we also found, on the Google Maps, we found the residence of Ms. Przyłębska, and we also made some demonstrations in front of this residence. Our Berlin or German feminist friends didn't like it, but we said, we'll do it anyway, because everybody's so angry. We cannot be so polite. It's not her private home, They went to a hotel in that time. The Polish ambassador, he said, oh, we have to go to a hotel because Berlin is so bad. Our little victory, a few months later, he resigned because Berlin was so bad for him. Yeah, so that was a small victory, yes, yeah, small. But also, everybody got angry, even in Berlin, and we used the word wypierdalać, phonetically written in German. Somebody wrote it, and everybody liked it so much. So we could feel that Berlin was also a stage for this, and wypierdalać means fuck off, kind of. It was like a word for everybody was using, and the red blitz symbol, it was designed by an artist from Poland, Ola Jasionowska, and it was also a symbol for everybody was using it. We also did some theater, again, you see, we combined different forms. I just like when things happen. People were creative as the audience, and 2 years later, I thought, okay, you remember Black Protest, when we asked for solidarity. All right, that's kind of great. But what if we went, these years that we were active, are still active, what if we now perceive ourselves differently? We are not the victims. We are sisters. And then I had this idea for having Siostrpreis, Sister Prize, to honor other activists. Because activism is such a shitty thing to do, you lose everything. You rarely win anything. And then I thought, let's just empower each other. especially in the German-Polish context. Why not? Or international, actually, as well. So let's make prizes. Why not? So because, being against things and protesting, it's not enough. For us artists, we create things. We just, let's do prizes. Why not? So everybody was happy again, and there was a different way of appreciating each other, building solidarity. So, and then the last part, 2 minutes. Also within this work we were doing, the artistic part, I do a lot of history projects because I think that especially in Germany, we should look at history, the recent one, let's say 8 years ago. On every demonstration I'm in on speaking, I always say, please keep your eyes open, look at AfD, look what happened these 8 years in Poland, how quickly things can change. And let's look back at history, how easily Nazis came to power. It was so easy. That's why different stories, I'm not only talking about victims of Nazism, no, also about resistance fighters, which is a subject German official institutions don't like to hear. They don't like it. The last thing, well, yeah, all these stories I'm telling you about, I put them on the exhibition in Humboldt Forum. Why not? Go inside the nest of whatever. If you ever go and see there, just let me know before I can give you a free ticket. Why pay? But then I thought there's one tiny video, and I will finish with this story. Tiny video I made. It's my personal manifesto against the Humboldt Forum thingy, or whatever colonial thing German, Prussia, and Polish had. There is one sequence where I'm licking a bust figure, a porcelain figure of Friedrich II, Friedrich the Great, and then because I want, and it's in there. It's actually in his home, if we can call Humboldt Forum his home, and it's a Polish voice of empowerment, of saying, I'm not a victim. I can lick the Fritz. I can do it. Why not? It's a different generation. We can change the world. We can do things. Okay, that's it. 0 minutes.
Thank you, Anna. We'll come back to the women later. So we talked about Poland and Hungary, and now we will speak about a third country where there is sort of laboratory going on, I think, no? Slovakia, because we know that...
I'd say so.
Yeah, Hungary has been an autocracy for 14 years, Poland for 8 years, now it's pausing, but we don't know for the future. Slovakia is interesting because the Prime Minister is quite a piece of work. Robert Fico, he was a social democrat, he was a former communist, as many of these biographies of people, very corrupt politicians, but who survived for 30 years. And then at certain points, Fico became like an ultranationalist. With the migrant crisis, he became like, proto-fascist. And very illiberal, very illiberal. And now, his idol is Viktor Orban. So you're also turning, slowly, but I think steadily into an autocracy like Poland has been and Hungary has been. We will talk about it later. But before I will introduce you Slavo Krekovič. He's an artist as well. He's a musician and cultural organizer. He is the only one who's not living in Berlin. He's based in Bratislava. He has been the editor-in-chief of the Three-Quarter Cultural magazine and co-founder of the cultural center A4. And he founded, if I'm not wrong, in the year 2000, the Next Festival, which is an annual celebration of experimental music, of sonic art. And for 4 years, he has been the head of the multimedia study program at the Brno University of Technology. But he also, as I said, is an artist. He performs solo or as a member of many experimental projects, music with electronic and interactive instruments. Again, we try to understand how art, how music can help to fight autocracy with Slavo. The word to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction and also for the invitation, Tatiana. I'm very happy to be here and to talk about very pressing and urgent issues that we are facing now for the past 2 years. And so somebody has mentioned that Slovakia, it was a journalist, I think, who mentioned that Slovakia is actually at the forefront of a political bizarre disaster worldwide. So even before Donald Trump was elected, we had many bizarre events happening on the top political level. So I think we can teach people how to do it. And so maybe you can also learn something from this presentation. So yes, these are some of the projects that were already mentioned. So I'm deeply involved in the organization of cultural events, and apart from the cultural center we are running and the festival, we also were actively involved in creating networks and some alliances and platforms that would fight or would be able to advocate for the cultural conditions in which we operate. One is the Kuba Cultural Bratislava. It's a network of cultural organizations in the city. And then we have Antenna network of cultural centers across the whole country. And so this will later play a role in the whole process. So when we're talking about the country before 2023, it was basically in the cultural field, because that's what I will be mostly talking about, basically on the right track with the strategy for culture and creative industry already approved and developed. And there was also many interesting developments in the field of for renovation of cultural infrastructures. So basically on the right track. But after September 23, as already been said, the new coalition consisting of populist, far-right, I think we can say neo-fascist parties partly came to the power. On the right you can see the new Minister of Culture, which the name I won't say of her, but she will be very popular in the next slides also. And with this new government, and the minister is coming from the disinfo propaganda scene, they began implementing changes in the system that would enable them to, of course, take over the institutions and increase political control not over the cultural field. So we have several of these changes, like legislation changes, changes in the personal appointments of directors of the institutions, who were loyal but not really experts in the field, interventions in grant schemes, which I will also talk about, and are important tool for support of the cultural scene. And there is dismissals of experts from everywhere, basically. Mostly the national institutions or the ones which are under direct state influence. And then we have something like, many different things, including anti-LGBTI speech and actions. So it's like a copy-paste scenario from Hungary, from Russia, from other countries. And of course, they try to take over the media, not only the state television, which is very recent, there's a new director, but also private companies, private TV stations through their owners. So this is our minister. Behind you see the logo of the TV Slovan, which was her private internet television, very much rooted in this disinfo scene. On the right you can see a painting by her, or isn't it? This was actually exhibited at the Bratislava Castle. And somebody put a label there, but you can guess the original author of the painting. But there was a prime minister, and so this is one of the bizarre things. And yet it's even titled. It has a title. Yes. So the first steps after they came to the power in 2023 was the Kunsthalle case, where she kind of dismissed the director of the Kunsthalle institution, which at that time we didn't really know if this is going to be, if it's just a one-off thing, like because of some managerial issues, but actually this was mostly because of the very progressive and liberal, even left-wing programming, if we can say so. But of course, this was a really well-established institution, and after people were really fighting for this to exist, she just dismissed the director, and since then it's been empty. There are no exhibitions, nothing. This is already a parody, but one of her first famous comment was that the Slovak culture the culture in Slovakia should be Slovak and no other, which is, of course, this kind of nationalist, fascist discourse of it's a nonsense. It doesn't even exist. I mean, there's no Slovak culture which is only Slovak. So people were, of course, making fun of it, and there's a really nice tradition of reusing and recontextualizing these things. But on the other hand, her party, the Slovak National Party, put up billboards. We were able to stop the support for LGBTI projects because she already stopped some projects at the ministry where there was a special grant for the minorities and for the socially weak groups or other groups. And so this, you can see that it's even, I think, illegal or against EU laws, discriminatory and so on. So I think there will be some court trials. But then the attack on national cultural institutions continued. So people already have the T-shirt that say Free National Theatre, which is a wordplay. Free Slobodná Slovenské. It's like it should be Slovak National Theatre, but the director of the National Theatre was also dismissed, of course, and the National Gallery as well. And this was a complete disaster because at least half of the employees said that they would leave because it's not possible to work under these new, subsequently, 3 new directors who were absolutely incompetent. And these employees were holding press conferences and were not allowed to hold them inside the building. So they had to go behind the building. There are these nice garage buildings and a really nice picture of the employees really talking to the press. But then, of course, the wider public and cultural sector got really, really angry. And there was a petition initiated by the artists, like famous artist Ilona Nemet, for instance, who then was later questioned by the police even, because the petition was successful in that we have been able to get more than 180,000 people to sign it, and it was the largest petition ever in the country. And the minister, of course, said, "Oh, there must be some fake signatures. I found Pamela Anderson signing it, so it must not be valid," and blah blah. So she even filed a complaint to the police. And as I said, the initiators had to go to the police, which was this way of spreading fear. But then, of course, this was all denied. But anyway, this also led to the formation. It was basically the same people and more from the artistic sector to the formation of a platform that is still an open and kind of informal platform called Open Culture, Otvorená kultúra. It looks very professional. I think it's very successful in social media communication and reacts to every single issue that pops up, and there are many of them. And so these are some of the achievements. They even published some. Sorry, this was AI-generated translation, but the numbers are right. So there are some even legal filings, but also one of the most important achievements was detailed report on the failures of the Ministry of Culture since 2023, which is an 80 pages long report, very detailed, and there's a lot to read about the situation, but also the summary of the impact on social media and so on. But this was, of course, not enough, and basically the reaction from the officials was zero. apart from some hate speech, of course. So they target specific people with their names and blah, blah. But there was the initiative of Otvorena Kultura and the Antenna network of cultural centers, and also the directors that were dismissed from the national institutions. And there was a committee that formed this idea of a cultural strike, which we really hoped would help unify people across institutions and freelancers and basically anyone in the sector. But it turned out that it's not really possible to have a real strike, because it was already mentioned, in some countries you cannot have a strike if it doesn't concern wages or working conditions of people, and you just cannot stop going to work. And that's why, after some legal advices, it stayed only on this symbolic level, and people wearing badges and people talking to other people about stuff. But the more important thing was actually a practical round of protests about the Arts Council, about the changes that the government did with the Arts Council, which is the main funding body for many institutions, mostly regional institutions and NGOs, and all of our projects that we have been doing in this independent cultural field. And so they changed the law. The government also changed the law, but then the minister appointed new members of the board of the council that basically cancelled some of the decisions of the expert committees, because it was quite a good system before, where people were nominating experts, deciding on the support, and it was working really well. So this was really a fight where we tried to file some appeals, and there was even a successful protest by the prosecutor attorney that stopped some of the things, but he objected that people in the board were nominated against the law. They didn't even have anything in the no experience in the cultural field and so on. So it's all really unlawful, and they are really, I would say, compared to Hungary, they're making mistakes. They do stuff that is completely out of any constitutional limits. So I think this cannot go on for long, but yeah, they managed to kind of disrupt the system of cultural funding, basically. And so some of the projects, of course, didn't get support even from the Arts Council. One of them was the Drama Queer Festival. So there is a big wave of solidarity, which is a really good thing, that people just united and they provided some support for the festival and created a donation campaign. We are joining forces for Drama Queer. We are not going to, we're not letting the diversity to be erased. So really large campaign. And one of the, now I'm really coming to the more artistic, like, performances and protests, reactions of the sector. So there was a cultural torchlight, which was this big thing with the light that people were standing with in different cities, in public places all over Slovakia, and talking to the passers-by about what is happening. So this was actually the largest, like, the final destination was in Bratislava, and this was the largest protest that was first of the protests that had culture as the main topic, which was, I don't know, 30,000 people maybe, but it was really a massive success, because before that, culture was never a topic of any, not even a political party program. Then there's an artist group called Art Cannot Be Silent, and they have created an artistic intervention in front of the National Gallery as a protest, and this lasted for 27 days, and more than 400 people took part in it, because they were holding this banner and saying that Slovak National Gallery is not your political toy. So this is a nice picture at the end. And the same group is now pretty recently been organizing a new gallery space right behind the National Gallery in these old garage, really ugly garage spaces. You know, the label says, "Don't take culture away from us," and then the garage belongs to the city district called Old Town, and usually it's maybe similar to Hungary, that there are people in the more liberal in the cities, mayors and mayors of the city districts, so they are really supportive, and they just rented out the space for these kinds of initiatives. One other, like a non-stop 24-hour long performance was done by artists Michaela Paštekova and Juraj Korec and other volunteers. There's a lot of volunteers joining the projects. Usually they were keeping falling on the floor in front of the ministry, and it says culture is falling, and so it had a huge coverage in the media. But then the minister complained to the police, and so the police came and they had to remove all the objects that were on the street. So, but they kept performing and falling on the ground. It was very rough and it was raining, but they really did it for 24 hours. And my favorite protest is this one, because it's called Folklore for the Support of the Arts, and basically it really managed to show that the minister, who proclaimed herself to be the defender of the traditional value, as the ultra-conservativists really like to say, that they were not even able to gain support of the traditional culture and the folklore movement. So now I will play a video that is actually a new song being created by a group of folk musicians, and the text is about the Minister of Culture, and there are some subtitles, so you will hear that.
Počujte, vážená Martina, nie je to len vaša krajina. Rozmanitá, pestrá, taká tu vždy bola, nezmení na tom nič zlovôľa. Počujte, vážená Martina, nie je to len vaša krajina. Žijeme tu všetci, rovní sme si v srdci, nezmení na tom nič zlá vôľa. Počujte, vážená Martina, nie je to len vaša krajina. Guľatá, neplochá, taká tu vždy bola, nezmení na tom nič zlovôľa. Guľatá, neplochá, taká tu vždy bola, nezmení na tom nič zlovôľa.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And it mentioned the flat earth because the general secretary of the minister, who is actually the most powerful man at the ministry, is actually a flat earther kind of believer, conspiracy guru, whatever. So it's this level of personal at the ministry. So, and he was actually very active in this case, the recent Donatello case. There is a bust, like a sculpture most probably by Donatello, which is of course very, and this has only been found very recently, and the sculpture has been stored in a small museum in a city called Levoča. And so he just came there with a police escort like a couple of weeks ago and took the sculpture, nobody knows where. And so people were really like, what is happening? It's like, yeah, so this is like the reaction. There are posters all around, like looking for wanted Cecilia Gonzaga, like what is happening? And they said they just took it and placed it in a safe place because, but it's obvious that there are some, mysterious processes going on. I don't know, they might try to question the authorship and then sell it somewhere, or like, I don't know, it's really like a gangster movie. He came there with the hoodie and the police, and it's like, yeah, really bizarre. And so I'm coming to the conclusion. So this is the current situation where we have all the stuff I've talked about. Institutions, destroyed partly. But also, on the other hand, we have some good things that are happening, and this is the partly united cultural sector and international solidarity, really, really great. And also these ideas for artistic interventions that are going on. Although people are really getting exhausted, it's all based on voluntary work, and it cannot last for long, probably. But there are some legal actions that have been undertaken, and we are waiting for the court decisions. So it's still possible to somehow do something. And also the voting preferences of the government parties are decreasing now. But they have now some ideas how to change the voting system. So we never know how this will actually unfold in the future. And of course, it's important to do also something in the field of discourse development. So we organize debates about cultural strike, about contextualizing what is happening, and preparing for change in case there will be some better option to actually come up with some ideas what to do. And one of the biggest social events and also conference format was this Open Culture International Conference held a couple of weeks ago under the patronage of the European Parliament. It was really a great event with many international speakers, and at the end there was a so-called Bratislava Declaration signed by many of the participants. And so you probably can't see this very well, but the most important part in this declaration is some appeal to the European institutions to actually create some watchdog and some laws about preserving the artistic freedom and about really monitoring the situation in the countries, because it's many countries, and it's also not, of course, in the countries we are talking about now. So there is a need of some umbrella, supervision of the processes, because it's going to be really difficult to solve on a local level. So, and some more positive vibes at the end. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Slavo, for this impressive presentation. I don't know how many we have, 50 minutes left for the discussion, right? And then 50 minutes for the question from the... Okay, so I would start immediately. I mean, the cultural, we could really talk about a lot of topics. The cultural topic is also very important for Hungary and Poland. In Poland, I saw horrible things, history being totally distorted and so on. And Hungary also this Trianon obsession. So for these nationalists, I mean, history, culture is very important. They learned from Antonio Gramsci, the cultural hegemony is very important to structure your autocracy. But I want to ask first, because Peter, you mentioned there is maybe a little glimmer of hope, because there is this Peter Magyar, no? He's the new opposition leader. The opposition didn't manage to do anything in the last years because of this great oppression. Do you think that there is a hope that Orban's regime might end in 1 year?
I'm happy to say that I think there is. If you asked me a year and a half ago, probably I would have been rather pessimistic. Now I'm rather optimist, because we've never been that close to a realistic hope. Where should I start? So this figure, Péter Magyar, is someone who has been an ambassador of Fidesz government in Brussels, at the EU, in London. He is a guy that knows Fidesz from the inside. He's a right conservative politician. So this message I want to share with everyone, when you've been trapped in an autocracy for a while, don't believe that the ideal government will just drop in front of your knees, or even Poland. Of course, I was was getting happiness tears when Tusk won the elections, but of course everything is not ideal. Huh? But we've got the same situation. If you think that you are waiting for the Messiah and someone will help us and suddenly it will be a perfect democracy, then you are wrong. So basically now with Péter Magyar, I think Hungary got a chance to join the club of countries like France that have been swallowing frogs for many years. So they've been voting Macron for I don't know how many times. However, a clear majority of the country hates Macron, but there is either the even worse or the less worse. So Péter Magyar, like let's say a country that has been brainwashed by Orbán and there is so much systemic power and money on every level of the state and in the minds, it's only a person from the right middle that can bring change probably, and the change comes peu à peu. So like I believe that because this is a guy that finally can talk to disappointed Fidesz voters who didn't find anyone in the huge colorful palette of parties, like there is a real chance and for change. In theory. Now, I don't know, are there any Harry Potter fans here? Well, not too many. Okay, because I think... Okay, yeah, well, I don't know. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so like there is one thing in the Prisoner of Azkaban in the third book that I think is like a super good philosophy. Like when they are casting a spell on this creature that comes out of the cupboard and will take the image of your biggest fear. The tool when they cast the spell is to imagine this biggest fear of yours being ridiculous and laugh at it. And this is, I think, what Péter Magyar is doing quite well. He's showing, pointing at the obvious mistakes of the system, that close to Orbán people are driving Ferraris, luxurious yachts on the Adriatic Sea, hunting from helicopters in Sweden, whatsoever. Like they got these people in power, they got so much used to their new lifestyle. It's so obvious that with the great social media work, this Péter Magyar is not really eating or falling into the traps that the Fidesz government and media is posing to him. He's doing his agenda. He's not really responding to those kind of shit propaganda. He's doing his thing. He tours the country. He goes to small villages where former oppositions never made it that far from Budapest. So he's talking to the people. The country is financially, economically in a really big trouble. So he just needs to talk about the economics, corruption, and look at the rich elites. So actually, of course, there are many more topics. Like, of course, he also says we want to bring back the EU funding and stand up for Ukraine because we are now a clearly pro-Russia country. We are betraying actually our own alliances. So yeah, this is to say that I think Péter Magyar is a good candidate to bring some change. Then it's another question whether there will be elections, because they can declare another next level emergency state with Ukraine, and then they can say no elections for a while. Or they can do the Istanbul model, right? There is this autocracy learning. They're learning from each other. So like what happened to the Istanbul mayor, they found something against him, he's jailed. So Péter Magyar could find himself maybe in jail in a short time. So you never know. But what is for sure that the government is afraid. So they proposed this law of what we saw in Georgia, the foreign agents law, to cut funding and close down the last critical voices of civil society, and that law was supposed to be going through the so-called Hungarian parliament day before yesterday, and it didn't because they postponed it the week before. because apparently the Fidesz spokesperson said there is no unity within the party about this question. So critical voices are popping up within the system as well, and there is basically a general fear in the air. So anything could happen, and even if Péter Magyar would win the elections, maybe something like Trump did would happen, that Fidesz, why would they give back power? They could just keep it, and so there are many different scenarios. So there is a mixture of fear in the air, because all these civil society organizations, just by the promise of this law, they got immense trouble. It's all about foreign funding, right? So like, of course, they have no other chance than EU funding or different other foundations, and they would need to shut down if or pay back the 25-fold of the support that they got from foreign countries. So basically, it's a big mess with some signs of hope and at the same time some signs of fear, and it can escalate in any ways.
Thank you, Peter. Anya, when I was in Poland for the presidential vote, you could feel 2 days before that it would go badly, because I went to see Marta Lempart. She's one of the founders of the strike. I talked to the people who are activists for abortion, like Abotak. They were all very angry. Women had a crucial role in realize the regime change in 2023, in voting for a moderate candidate as a prime minister. So Donald Tusk came to power, and then they forgot the women. He didn't do the law for abortion. He didn't do the rule of law because, of course, he had a president who was always voting against him. But he could have done more for women, right?
Yeah, he could have done. From what I heard, that inside of the Polish ruling coalition, they were just arguing with each other as parties, and also, so they were arguing too much. I think, of course, we could have been, because for those of you who don't know, when PiS came to power in 2015, we voted him out in 2023. But the new government, they should have cleaned it up, and they didn't, because there was still a PiS president who could say no to many things. And just last week, or when was it, beginning of June, we had again presidential election, and the guy who won, it's a joke, I cannot believe it. I'm sorry, but you are talking about the situation where things should have gone better. I would not trust your guy Magyar. I would not. Because, look, who is the opposition? First, our Tusk and our parties which were opposition, they came to power, and why didn't they do the things they promised? Was it too difficult, or didn't they want to? There are many reasons. Things are not black and white. But I would not trust someone, because all these, if we talk about Slovakia, maybe not yet, but we talk about Hungary, Poland, or other countries, not necessarily European, but we see the same script. First they take the media, then they take democratic institutions. It's the same. It's the same script they follow. I don't know if Orban wrote it, maybe not, but they all do the same. So we can see which method, what will happen within these countries, what can happen in Germany as well. Because the question is, who is the opposition and what will happen? In Poland, the back then opposition didn't make it properly. What do we have in Germany? AfD is the opposition. They will wait. They will just now wait a few years to see the new government, which will fail because the times are difficult, everybody is angry, so every government which is ruling will be criticized, and then AfD will come in from the side. The same, I don't know about this guy Peter you have, but you cannot trust a guy because it's all connected. I brought a book, it's heavy, but you talk to Marta Lempart. Another activist in Poland is Klementyna Suchanow. This book is in German. I really recommend. The German title.
Try to translate it. I try to make it translate in Germany and Italy. It's impossible.
Yeah. In German it's called Das ist Krieg. I think it is in German.
It was translated.
Yes, it is. It's really cool, important. If it's too heavy for you, read at least the document by Neil Data. He wrote it some years ago. He's a European, he works at the Europe.
A great and investigative journalist.
Exactly, and she investigated all these right-wing Christian networks, the one we have in Hungary. For example, the guy called Neil Data, he found out and wrote about a network called Agenda Europe, which changed the name in the meantime, but it was established in 2013. And maybe a little bit later. That's why we can see if Orban got a little push, maybe from them, but they are all in it. It's not a conspiracy theory, but it's something that, let's just look at it, because it's a network from Russia with the Orthodox Church through Hungary, Poland, Germany, the bishops in München, they love it. They make meetings of this organization, Vatican, of course, and then to America. And what they want to do, they want to restore a natural order where women are just somewhere else, LGBT is not. Well, it doesn't have to be a white male power, but at least a male power with traditional values, and they go along the script. You have that in Hungary. They organize these, whatever, family congresses.
Congress of Family. Also,
yeah,
Giorgia
exactly.
Meloni went there, and Orban went there, and the former president of Hungary went there. They were all there, the big politicians.
Exactly. So that's why I'm finishing. That's why it's important for all of us to see a little bit beyond and see the networks they create. Like the nationalists we spoke about before. Like if you imagine Polish nationalists with German nationalists, they play together somewhere in the forest on the eastern border of Germany, what they do together. But it's real, like AfD and Polish party, which is even worse than PiS. Huh? Too loud? This political party is called Konfederacja. They are really right-wing. They like each other with AfD. They invite each other. I'm sure they talk, I'm sure they talk to Orban too. Slovakia probably with this minister. So see it, let's see one step ahead and let's see a little bit further. And I really do recommend, it's heavy, but it's in German, but
yes,
read Neil
really
Data.
Recommendable. It's a great book.
Yeah.
Clementina Suchova. Slavo, sometimes when I read all those politologists and historians, there is one explanation that convinced me maybe about the difference between, you quoted now AfD, no, which is very scary, and is very, very strong in Eastern Germany, right? And then you have those nationalistic parties and autocratic parties in all the countries, very different one from another. But some politologists like Ivan Krastev, they say, look, in the 90s, you said it a little bit. In the 90s, you had this big sacrifice coming from the fact that the Berlin Wall came down and all these countries had to almost bankrupt economies, they had to build them up, and all the parties were saying them, and many were still the corrupt people of before, but maybe the second lines, for example, in Romania. But many people, but they were saying, you have to do sacrifice. You have to, we will have a big wave of unemployment, but you will see in the future we will have prosperity. So what happened in the 90s was that people associated the democracy that had come after the Berlin Wall, the end of the communism, it associated the democracy with sacrifice. You know, which is a big difference with our generation, because our generation, we grew up in Western Europe, and democracy came to us with the boom, the economic boom, you know, so no sacrifice, the golden years at Paul Krugman called them. Do you think it's true that these nationalists build on this disappointment of the 90s, and since then it's hopeless?
Yeah, I think there are many things that are common to of course, the post-communist countries, but it's not only that. And there is there's a book that came to my mind. I forgot the name of the author, but I think it's Ivan Kalmar, who was born in Czechoslovakia, then emigrated, and now is in the US or in Canada. And the book is called White But Not Quite, and it's about the structural racism on many different levels. Which is not only somehow pointed towards people who are visibly different or in a way that they have different skin color, but also between nations, between people from different cultural backgrounds. And so there was also something about the structural problems that the Eastern European countries had after the fall of the regime, and they could not actually develop and somehow up to the level of the rich Western countries because of some capitalist reasons that somehow the production was done in a way that it was not beneficial for the Western companies to have the markets. They were only using the markets and the labor in the East. So there are some economic reasons behind it as well. I think it has to do with the capitalism as it operates. And so these are structural reasons that not many people, especially in the right-wing governments in the former communist countries, were able to see or would even want to consider. So the reforms that were taking place made the situation better for some layers, social layers, but not for all the people who were, of course, living in a free country, but then economically the conditions were worse than before. And so these are the very much problems that no government was able to address. And now it's a question, in Slovakia, for instance, we have some hope as well, because now the leading party in the voting preferences is the Progressive Party. So it's, again, something that is very different from what was before, and it's for the first time ever that kind of centrist, but at least a bit left-wing party is rising and would actually win the elections now. So this is a big hope and a big change, but also I think Fico has some measures against it to make the elections less free and less, good for him.
Thank you so much. I think we have to close this really, really wonderful session. Thank you so much, Péter, Anya, and Slavo. Thank you so much, and I think you earn a big applause because it was a really, for me, super instructive panel. Thank you so much, and good luck. And now we do the questions. Okay, I understood that we wouldn't have time. Okay, so where are the questions from the public? Is there anyone who wants to pose questions here? And we have also from, yes, who maybe online. Do we have questions online? There's a question over there. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. I'm a big fan of arts and activism as a way to fight, to create cultures of resistance. But one thing I'm curious about in the countries that are being made visible here is the struggle for the actual cultural spaces. And it may seem kind of a small thing compared to the fascist threats and the racist threats, but in terms of like being able to afford rent of commercial space, to keep a space like A4 running, how do you survive in Bratislava with that? And the problem I see also with that is that as we lose access to space and the difficulties of even paying our rent, the arts starts to evaporate. And people have to migrate to doing hustling for survival. So how do we at the same time fight for this, housing rights and rent rights and things like that?
So in our case, we have been lucky enough that there was some funding from the Slovak Arts Council that is now very much threatened, but it's a 3-year-long grant that we still have 2 more, like a year and a half, so even despite this new board, but I'm sure they will find some ways how to cut the support off the cultural centers, especially because the network has been very active in a political fight. And I think without that and some European grants, but also for the European grants, we need to get co-financing from local sources that has been cut off. So it's getting increasingly difficult, but we have been able to somehow survive without ever being forced to commercialize the cultural programming. So we are really much focused on experimental art, and so, but it's very much a threat for the future, of course.
Questions here.
Hello, thank you. That was really interesting. I have one question to Peter. You mentioned that actually these illiberal democracies often stand on fears in the population, and you also mentioned that the Viktor Orban's policy connected to the illiberal democracy started in 2015 when he started losing his popularity. And you also mentioned that the whole program was full with these fears to be somehow to have good soil in the population. My question is, does the do you, your peers, or does the opposition party whom you have hope that it will be successful, do anything to face these fears in population? Because I'm asking this because Hungary is not the only country where these fears in population works well. It works in Slovakia too. Slavo mentioned that, for example, in Slovakia there is a fear in LGBTI movement. In Georgia there is a fear of war, and this parties, like ruling parties, similarly working on the fears in population. They are having their policy, like their program directed to that. I wonder if this opposition party or any activists work on that to face this and
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a good one. I would separate the question in two parts, or my answer in two parts, because we see fantastic civil society and also people, certain characters of the old opposition, because now we call, since Péter Magyar for last 1 year, we call him the new opposition, and then there is the old opposition. And there are, of course, former figures of old opposition and civil society and artists that are raising their voice. And this is also since the latest foreign agent law attempt, we watched a new wave of artists, pop singers, pop culture, who are suddenly going to demonstrations, independently organized demonstrations, or not related to the new opposition. So I'm happy to see that there are more and more people speaking up, because in Hungary, when I was a kid, they told us in school always, we are not politicizing. Now, politics should, it's something like sadomasochism or something sick. Politics doesn't belong to school, or like totally different mentality. So that's one thing. And on a political level, I see a very proactive response to the fear policy. So Péter Magyar, I think, understood well that he has to react to this, and he's communicating he's using also the national symbols. So yeah, guys, you can be Hungarian with me too, but it's end of the hate, and it's he is communicating with a very expressive love language that to me sometimes is a bit ridiculous, but somehow it seems to work. So yes, there is a response on that level as well. And if I just get the chance, maybe 2 more minutes, I wanted to react to one thing you said before, also about not trusting him and stuff like that. So there is this study, I cannot quote the author neither, that it's always in crisis situations, it's 10% of society that is gonna be active. All the others are gonna watch. What crisis or war we talk about, very often about activism, it's the 10%. And I also count myself into the 10% of sometimes daring to dream a bit of ideal case scenarios. I'm a privileged person. I've been living in different countries. I have higher education, but we have to think about the masses of people who would never even go to an event like here today. And I think that if we stay in the realpolitik, at least it's those masses who will decide an election and not the creative ones or the more visionary ones. That's why I'm optimistic with a bit of a little star, of course. That's not my favorite candidate either, but after 14 years of not much of a choice, you're just happy if you get a muffin without too much poo in the middle of the plate, like step by step.
So I think an online question popped up.
We have one more here.
And one, the floor. Okay, we take the last question here from the floor and then from our online.
So I hope that this is not too idealistic, maybe plea or a remark, but instead of recommending Klementyna Suchanow's book, I would rather recommend Agnieszka Graf and Elżbieta Korolczuk book about anti-gender, because as an old homosexual, I would like to listen to voices of young queer people, and for years and years, they're very concerning voices about Klementyna Suchanow and how she approaches very young people, and I think it's important not to ignore them, and I would like to just voice that of maybe, a more just vision of Polish feminism.
Thank you. Maybe I would take a question now from the online. I don't know if is it popping up here or you will read it as Jonas.
So I'll bring in two short ones. I don't know if the answers can be short. One for Slavo. It takes courage to speak out about the problems in your country and run an independent space there. Has your space ever been threatened or faced repercussions as a result of the cultural work you do? And then a question for Anna and Peter, from someone from Italy, mentioning the new controversial security bill that is also clamping down on protests and the right to protest. And since you both work to connect communities between Germany and your countries, how do you empower people to take action across borders? In these difficult times, I think we should unite our struggles.
Thank you. Maybe Anya first.
How we do it? Okay.
Wait, more transnational.
Okay, so for example, again, with the social media, it's quite easy to go beyond borders in communication. We can do it, we can take part. And that's number one, which of course social media are a help, but they're also a kind of a dramatical thing, because of course they can mess up with many things. So we just have to remember that what happened with AfD, it's social media. And in many countries, social media can destroy many things. But if it's communication, it's great. But, well, for example, for Poland and Germany, now it's quite close. So we share the border, so it's easy to travel. But we also cooperate with Hungarians because we love each other. So, for example, in Berlin, we've made many actions together. Well, not many, but some projects, because not only we see we are in the same shit, or we love each other, but we cooperate, and we also cooperate with other nationalities. Like there was one situation when Erdogan wanted to cancel Istanbul Convention, so we teamed up with women of migrants, but also women from Turkey, to discuss this and see where is it similar, how can we help each other, because everything is connected. So I think this is the message. Everything is connected. And even if we talk about women's rights, great, but it's way beyond women's rights.
I think
all connected.
The question was coming, I think, from Italy, and it was also referring to these horrible new laws of the Italian government that are criminalizing demonstrations, and nobody in Europe is talking about it because, of course, Meloni is a superstar in the European context. So it gets harder and harder to demonstrate freely also in Italy. And so I think he was asking also about, how can we get this more extended?
How can we inform about this? Well, it has to go through different activist networks. Of course, we get messages from different countries. Well, I'm not talking about myself, but of course one gets messages about different shitty situations, like Georgia, like now Italy. We need a good communication network. But there's one, maybe there are some that we should spread the message.
There is one very good example that worked. That was a petition. So we are Hungarians in Berlin, so we try to spread our message through Camp Act. That is a very well-known petition platform. So our way was to think like, okay, we wanted we addressed our petition to the new German government, saying like, please do everything on the level of the European Union that they are applying their legal weapons against Hungary, so the pride ban or the harassment of civil society takes an end. And this Camp Act platform brought our message out to an incredible amount of people that we didn't even dream of. I think the petition, we started it a month ago, and now it's around 94,000 signatures, and within 3 weeks we were above 60,000. So it was like this Camp Act worked very well as a tool, and a lot of people living in Germany, because you use, of course, the geo-targeting, I guess, signed it, who otherwise never would have got our little Hungarian message, I guess. So in that sense, we didn't connect with other similar NGOs in Germany, but the big platform where they have this medial power to distribute messages. And it's always like we are thinking, okay, who can we convince? Okay, German government, it's gonna be not easy, but of course, we are in Europe, God damn it. So like the European Union can also pressure, and that's the only tool that worked with Hungary, that they cut the money. So if you think about that everything is European now, the fascist parties are playing together at the Polish border, or you think that Orban is financing Front National in the French elections campaign, or Vox in the Spanish campaign. We are in Europe, and that has consequences, and unfortunately the fascists understood as well that we are in Europe. But we should also not forget that we have many friends and networks and great platforms, so together we are stronger.
Slavo, some years ago it came out that Robert Fico had very good, or people around him, very good relationship with the Italian mafia, Ndrangheta and so on. So maybe also the activists can do more networking towards.
Yeah, there are journalists who do a lot of work because they really uncover.
Died also, they were killed.
Also, but now they are uncovering cases of misusing the EU support. There were some EU delegations of the MPs from Parliament, and it's really a huge case. But also responding to the question, we actually didn't. I mean, we didn't get support for the European funding, which is the match funding from the Arts Council. That's one thing, but also the minister herself cancelled the support for the renovation of the roof of the building we are based in, and it's really a funny story because the building belongs to YMCA, which is a Christian organization, and they were apparently not too liberal or not Christian enough, and not radical enough, because we also have this rainbow flag in the window, and the minister said, oh, they're not Catholic enough, they have the rainbow flags, but I will cancel the support that already was approved by the expert committee, and they didn't get anything for the renovation. So these things are happening, and it's really threatening.
Okay, I thank you. I'm glad to thank you again, Peter, Slavo and Anya. I want to thank the Disruption Network Lab and fantastic Tatiana and all the people who helped me tonight. Thank you. And yes, and I hope you will have a good conference also tomorrow. I think the program is very, very rich and wonderful. Thank you.
Also, I want to bring my thanks from the Disruption Network Club and for this great panel that was very important, because as you also say, we really have to unite our struggle. And just I want to mention that tomorrow we go on, and we will start opening the doors at 4, so please come back, despite the very great weather in Berlin. But we need you also to go on with our topics, our resistance, and also, as Franco Berardi said today, one way to start the fight is also to understand. So tomorrow we will start with a keynote that is going back to the roots of the new right, and also trying to understand how did we arrive at this point. We will also speak about the anti-gender measures that are deployed both in Europe and in the US. And then we will have a panel after a lecture performance of Donatella Della Ratta that will deal with the discourse of generative AI and the imaginary of the yet to come. Also this kind of imaginary that are created by this right-wing way of thinking, that is also connected to the way we now imagine technology and the big tech that are controlling it. We will speak also about shadow campaigns. So come back, and we will go on with the discussion. And thank you for this great panel. Thank you, Tonia, for the moderation. And see you tomorrow.